Hello everybody, it's Suki and welcome back to another video. So it's patch day, well 4.05 patch day, and with 4.05, hello Sparrow, thank you for covering my face. But anyways, with patch 4.05 we did get some job changes. Now I'm only going to go over the healer ones. There was actually quite a few job changes for a number of jobs that was honestly a bit surprising to me just how many changes there were. For the most part, a lot of them were buffs. There's a couple nerfs here and there, like Paladin and Ninja had a couple nerfs. Astrologian also saw a nerf, but also kind of a buff, and we'll get to that later. And yeah, for the most part, most of the job changes were buffs. So that's nice to see, trying to get some of the weaker jobs more in line and balanced. So that's always a good thing. So yeah, but I'm only going to talk about the healers just because there's a lot more changes than I thought there was going to be, and I already did my own thought videos on the 3 healers beforehand, so this is a good video to make after the fact. So yeah, let's just get into it. So I'm just going to read off the patch notes and give my thoughts as we go along, and I guess I'll put it on the screen as well as we're going through them. So first off, we'll start with White Mage since it's first. Planetary Indulgence had its effect changed. So now, Planetary Indulgence, instead of going off your Cure 1 and Cure 2, now it instead goes off your AoE heals. So Medica, Medica 2, and Cure 3. And also it's been changed so that it is now a 100% chance of granting Confession instead of the 20%. Yeah, so there's a couple changes. Basically, Planetary Indulgence is kind of like a Medica, or not a Medica, but an AoE healing supplement. The Confession has been reduced from 30 seconds to 10 seconds, so now it only lasts for 10 seconds until either you stack another one on top of it, another Confession stack from casting another AoE heal, or you use Planetary Indulgence, or it just wears off after 10 seconds. And since this is casting, you are casting it in an AoE, it's 100%. Since, it's an AoE, you're pretty much guaranteed to have the buff on your own buff bar, so you can actually see the duration of the Confession stack. I guess the only case where you wouldn't be able to see it is if you cast Cure 3 on the party in a group that you're not actually in, which is a very rare occurrence, so that's the only time we wouldn't be able to see the actual stack duration, but whatever. And to account for this change, obviously healing potencies were reduced because this is now more of an AoE heal than it is sort of a single target heal supplement. So now for only 1 stack it's 150, for 2 stack it's 300, and for 3 stacks it's 450. So basically 1 stack is basically half a Medica, 2 stacks is basically double Medica, and 3 stacks is basically, well, 1.5 Medicas on top of that. And also the recast time has been changed from 15 to 60 seconds. So what do I think about this? I think it definitely makes Planetary Indulgence a lot more useful, and there's definitely a place to use this. Really, honestly, White Mage's AoE healing is really good because, you have access to Medica 2, which if you don't need everyone to be topped off right away, is a very good AoE option. And if you do need a lot more of a, a bigger heal for AoE damage, Cure 3 is amazing. Like, I've been using Cure 3 a lot this expansion because there's a lot of hard-hitting party-wide damage going out that, split AoE damage seems to be the in thing right now. So Cure 3 has definitely been helping out. But, sometimes maybe if you just want to cast a regular Medica, you could make use of Planetary Indulgence to sort of get that little extra power out of your AoE heals. So I really do like this change. It definitely makes Planetary Indulgence a lot more useful. Obviously you're going to be using it a lot less, and it's more of a choice thing. There's going to be a lot of AoE healing throughout the fight, but since Planetary Indulgence now sits on a 60-second cooldown, it's really up to you whether or not you want to choose to use it for this situation or save it for later now. Because, whereas, back when Planetary Indulgence was, the single target thing and there's only a 20% chance to proc, you could basically use it whenever, and it'd probably be back off cooldown whenever you ever got another stack. So, I don't know. I think this way, the way it is now is definitely a lot more useful, although to be fair, White Mage's AoE healing was pretty good before anyway, so you know, it's a nice change. I like it. I did get a chance to use this in Expert Dungeon earlier, doing Temple of the Fist, and it worked great. You know, there was, I don't know, the tooltip is kind of buggy. Let me look at it right now. It's got a typo because it still says there's only a 20% chance, but in the patch notes it says 100% chance. From what I could tell, it was a 100% chance when I casted it. There's only a couple times where one of the party members didn't get like a stack, and that was probably because they were out of range of my Medica or something like that. So we'll have to see. I'm pretty sure that 100% chance is the way it is, but again, I only got to use it a few times in Temple of the Fist so far, so hopefully it is 100% chance, because if it's only 20% chance, then this ability is well, it's definitely not as good as I think it is, but when I did get to use it, it did definitely felt a lot better to use than it was beforehand. And the only other change we got to White Mage was Secret of the Lily getting buffed again. So now, Cure will also 100% proc a Lily. So, lilies for days, basically. There's really no... You're going to get lilies a lot now. Since now both Cure 1 and Cure 2 have a 100% chance to proc lilies, you're going to be getting a lot of the lilies, which means you're going to be getting a lot more out of the cooldown reduction, which is good. You know, you're going to get more size, you're going to get more Tetra, you're going to get more Asylum, and you're going to get to use Divine Benison more. That's definitely something that they didn't really touch on Divine Benison, but considering that you can get a lot more lilies now, I definitely don't shy away from using Divine Benison, even if I'm, you know, sitting at 3 stacks or 2 stacks and not just 1. I definitely don't feel as I don't know how to put it. I don't feel as bad to use Divine Benison now when I have 3 stacks, since it's just so easy to get all 3 of your lilies back anyway. So yeah, definitely like that change. I really would like to see the changes I suggested for Divine Benison back in my White Mage video, but for now I think these changes are good, and it just makes White Mage better in the long run. So good changes for White Mage. So now let's move on to Scholar. So yesterday I posted my Scholar Thoughts video, which was more of a rant, and in that video I expressed how I felt like Scholar just wasn't very fun to play. There's a lot of problems with their damage, it just didn't feel that satisfying, and definitely a lot of problems with their healing because of the large MP cost of Ad Loquium and Succor, and the fact that basically everything except Physic was locked behind the Aether Flow stacks, and also the fact that the Faerie just wasn't outputting very high heals. So what did they change? Well, first off, emergency tactics reduced from 30 seconds to 20 seconds. Good change. I would like to have seen it reduced even more to like 5 seconds, because again, emergency tactics isn't really going to make Astrologian Scholar more powerful. It just gives us an option to throw out a bigger heal when we don't have access to Eighth Flow stacks to burn Illustrate or something like that. So I think putting emergency tactics on a lower cooldown is definitely the right direction. 20 seconds, definitely better than 30 seconds, but I don't know. I would have liked it to seen it go down even further, but 20 seconds, I'll take it, right? Indomitability had its potency increased from 400 to 500. Now, I didn't actually think Indom needed to get a potency buff, actually, honestly. I would have actually preferred to have gotten a cooldown reduction, maybe down to like 20 seconds. But, you know, I'll take the 100 potency, I guess. And, you know, Indomitability was already a pretty solid ability. I didn't think they really needed to touch it. But, yeah, I'll take the 100 potency. Thanks. Excogitation. So, Excog was basically kind of like a glorified Lustrate, you know. It did a whole 50 potency more than Lustrate, and you could throw it on the, you know, the tank before a tank buster and just get that instant heal and not have to worry about it. But it had a 60-second cooldown as opposed to Lustrate only being like a 1-second cooldown. So that was the trade-off for Excog being a little bit stronger. Now it is considerably stronger. It's been buffed from 650 to 800 potency, so it's 200 potency more than Lustrate. Its duration got increased to 45 seconds, which is kind of nice. You know, there's definitely been times where I've thrown XCOG on the tank and they've just never dipped below 50% because I was you know, throwing an Adloquium here and there and just DPSing and waiting for that XCOG to go off. So having it go up to 45 seconds, you know, great. You know, allows you to sort of like preemptively put it on the tank. Like, you know, okay, the tank's gonna get hit eventually, right? Go down 50%, so you can throw it down way in advance and get XCOG cooling down while still having the effect on them. And to supplement that as well, the cooldown time has been reduced to 45 seconds down to 60 seconds. So pretty nice change for XCOG. It still uses an Aetherflow, which is, you know, I expressed how I would have been nice if XCOG didn't use an Aetherflow, but you know, it is what it is. We did get a change to Aetherflow, which we will talk about when we get there. Fey Union had its range increased from 10 yalms to 15 yalms. Definitely a step in the right direction. You still have the tether thing, and there's you know, no longer will deplete when channeling Fey Union is interrupted. I actually didn't know that this was an issue, but I guess it's fixed now, so that's good. So 15 yalm range, definitely a lot more leeway when your tank is just kind of having to move the boss around for certain mechanics, or having to dodge certain, you know, AoEs. Like maybe the tank gets the lightning and has to go to the other side on Sano. I guess the main tank can't get targeted for that. But anyway, it's definitely a hopeful change. Getting that extra 5 yalms is definitely going to make things a lot more easier when you're trying to make use of Fey Union. No potency increases or anything like that. You know, I guess that's fine, but I'll definitely take the 5 yalms. Aether Pact. So, what's this? Aetherflow actions are no longer required. So, they had a similar change for Summoner, and this really wasn't a big deal for Scholar as much as it was for Summoner. I just know back in Heavenward Summoner, like if you were to throw out an ability and it like missed, or you went to go Bane but it didn't actually hit anything else, you know, it didn't actually spread, you wouldn't get, you know, the stacks to get to Dreadworm Tramps or whatever. This is basically the same thing, except you know, going towards the Faerie gauge, which basically everything that Scholar has is a heal with the exception of Energy Drain, and it's pretty hard to miss now. So I didn't know this was actually a problem, but I guess having this safety net definitely helps, so good for that change, I guess. And then Quicken Aetherflow. So now instead of it being a 20% chance to proc whenever you use an Aetherflow ability, it's 100%. But to sort of balance out that change, the reduction is now 5 seconds instead of 10 seconds. So basically, as long as you're using your 3 Aetherflow abilities within the Aetherflow window, your Aetherflow cooldown is essentially 45 seconds rather than 60 seconds. Definitely a nice change. This makes it so that we as Scholars can get access to our, you know, strong healing and mitigation abilities faster, which is definitely nice. Definitely nice indeed. It's a step in the right direction again. It still doesn't help with Scholars like basic healing toolkit. Like there's no changes to Adloquium, you know, and the MP cost, no change to Sucker and the MP cost. Emergency Tactics definitely helps, but again, those MP costs are really high, so even with Emergency Tactics being on a lower cooldown, you still can't feasibly spam it to really get out those big heals without having to expend something like Lestrade or Indomitability. I definitely would have liked to have seen some more changes to something like Physic, to making Physic more strong in some way, making it synergize with some other healing ability, making it so that Adloquium has a less MP cost, 20% chance from casting Physic, or, you know, something. But we didn't get really much of that, and honestly, this is more than I was actually expecting going into 4.05. I wasn't expecting a whole lot of changes for most of the jobs, and we did get a fairly decent list of changes, and I am happy with all of these changes so far. Definitely is a step in the right direction. Will Scholar be more fun to play? Maybe? I don't know. I'd have to actually play it. Definitely, I mean, XCOG and Indom getting buffed is definitely nice. Having Quicken Aetherflow, having that ability to basically make Aetherflow's cooldown 45 seconds is definitely a nice change. And yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing how this actually affects my thoughts on Scholar, and we'll see when I have a chance to sort of play with it more. But let's move on. Actually, let's not move on because there's something missing in the Scholar patch notes that we did get on Scholar, and that is we got Miasma 2 back. So we got Miasma 2 back. It basically works the same way that it worked back in Heavensward. It is a proximity AoE around you. Has a 5 yalm radius. Pretty high MP cost. It does 100 potency initially. 12-second dot, 25 potency, so 200 potency dot to everyone it hits around you. Basically just another ability to help with our AoE DPS, essentially. So now, instead of just having Miasma, Bio 2, Bane, Shadow Flare once a minute, we now also have Miasma 2 we can put up every 12 seconds if MP allows, because this does cost quite a bit of MP. Like, I mean, to be fair, it is 200 potency MP and there's no damage drop off, you know, so compared to Holy and Gravity, which are, you know, I think Gravity is like 1800 or something like that, but so it's a fair MP cost, and definitely a welcome change or to Scholar getting this extra ability to help with AoE DPS. Definitely going to help out on I keep saying Astrologian, don't I? I mean Scholar, but yeah. A little bit a nice gift, you know, for Scholar. I don't know why they forgot to actually add this into the patch notes. It actually there's actually a thing right below this that says they're going to add Miasma 2 back as a like an auto translation thing, but there's actually nothing here in the actual job changes that says that we got Miasma 2 back. So we did get Miasma 2 back, and it's definitely a welcome change for Scholar as well. But now let's move on to Astrologian, which did see some nerfs, unfortunately. I kind of figured we would get some nerfs on Astrologian moving forward, because, you know, balance was just too powerful, and that's basically our nerf, is that the balance got its damage dealt reduced from 20% to 10%. So now it's down to 10%, which is how it was initially back at the start of Heavensward. So basically, we've kind of come full circle, I guess, with the balance. Honestly, it was ridiculous when they buffed it to 20% back in, what was it, 3.2, 3.3, somewhere around there. And I was extremely surprised that when they nerfed the arrow that they didn't nerf the balance as well. But now it's down to 10%. What do I think about that? It's fine. You know, the Astrologian is still an extremely powerful healer. It's still got an extreme amount of damage in its cards, and we'll talk about that later when we talk about the spear. So I don't really find the balance getting nerfed down to 10% as big of a deal as some people might think it to be. But yeah, it is what it is. We got that 10% reduction. There's also something in the patch notes that says, you know, when you get the area effective, it goes down to 5%. Obviously, if you can do simple math, they didn't really need to add that in there, but you know, whatever. But the other change is the spear. So no longer is the old effect of the spear where, you know, you get 20% cooldown reduction on abilities you use while the spear, and now instead it is a 10% critical hit rate buff for the party member you cast it on by 10%. So you now have the balance, which is a flat 10% damage. You have the arrow, which is 10% attack speed, and now you have the spear, which is 10% critical hit rate. So now we have three cards that increase damage in some way. 3 cards. So that's a, you know, 1 in 2 chance. You know, 50% chance of getting some sort of DPS card from your draws. So you know, that's nice. I really do like this change to the spear. It makes it not useless and not just instant cannon fodder. So obviously the balance is still probably the better choice over the spear and the arrow, but the spear is definitely going to be useful for certain jobs in particular. I know monks and bards will definitely love this since they got those procs with their crits. Yeah, definitely like this change to the spear, and I like how it's now not. I'm not gonna no longer feel like if I don't get the balance, if I just get the arrow or the spear, I don't feel like I have to, you know, try to redraw to get a balance. You know, that's Some people might just be going, you know, hardcore trying to get that balance every time. But you know, if I get the spear or the arrow, I'm just gonna use it if I get it, and I'm just gonna spread it if I get it. I'll be perfectly fine with using it. So, I definitely think the spear is probably still the less powerful, just because of how I'm not entirely sure how stat weights are working, but critical hit rate did see a little nerf going into Stormblood. So I do think that even though the change to the spear is nice, it's still probably the weaker of the three between the arrow and the balance. So it's probably still balanced arrow spear, but you know, I could be wrong. Maybe the spear is better than the arrow. We'll just have to wait and see when those stat weights do come out. But yeah, definitely a good change for the spear. And I guess, you know, you can use actually the spear as kind of a healing cooldown, I suppose. Not really. Whereas you can use the arrow as a healing cooldown to, you know, get your spells out 10% faster. You know, using the spear to try to get crit heals, probably not the best way of using it. But it is kind of a healing cooldown, but you know, you could argue, but you know, whatever. Undraw got its recast time reduced from 5 seconds to 3 seconds. I didn't actually know this would be a problem. I suppose it is kind of a problem if you go to draw and then you throw away your card and then instantly sleeve draw again and then you get another crappy card. So I suppose that's why that change is there. Also something that's missing from these patch notes, we got Unspread and Unroyal Road. That's not the name of the ability. What is it called? Empty Road and Undraw Spread. So Empty Road just gets rid of your Royal Road effect, and Undraw Spread gets rid of your spread effect. I'm pretty sure if you spread a card and then you use this, yeah, it just instantly goes on cooldown. So basically, just use those if you get a Royal Road effect you don't like say you get the bowl and you want to put it on the tank, but you have the expanded Royal Road effect and you don't want to just throw it on everybody, you just want the powerful single target bowl on the tank. That's one way to throw away your Royal Road effect. And obviously if you get like the Spire from sleeve draw in your spread slot, instead of being forced to use the Spire somehow and throw it on somebody, you can now unspread. So definitely a nice change there, getting those abilities to use. And aside from that, we got Hyper Light Speed. It got changed a bit. So now instead, recast time of light speed now reduced upon executing Essential Dignity, and the time has been changed from 5 seconds to 10 seconds. So Essential Dignity has a 40-second cooldown. Is that after the trait? No? I thought we had a trait that made it go down to 40 seconds, but now I guess it's just 40 seconds all the time. So yeah, so it's 2.5 minute cooldown for light speed. So let's do some math here. So that's minute 20, 2 minutes. So basically, you have a 30-second leeway, I suppose. Basically, you can get in 3 essential dignities in between a cooldown of light speed, and that will essentially bring light speed's cooldown down to 2 minutes instead of 2.5 minutes. And that again gives you about 10-second or 30-second leeway in between using your essential dignities. Because obviously, I mean, you might want to hold on to your essential dignity for a few seconds because there's not really a place you need to use it. So you have 30 seconds to sort of hold on to essential dignity in between a 2.5 minute cooldown of light speed. So yeah, I mean, I wasn't really hyped on the crit making light speed go down 5 seconds to begin with. So I feel like this is a lot more consistent than the crit. So I do like this change a little bit better. I like this trait a little bit better, although it does kind of take away from that crit synergy that was between the 3 healers. Like, they really wanted healers to sort of stack crit. So now there's no any actual benefit to stacking crit other than if you actually like crit on Astrologian. Whereas you know, scholars have the Adloquium critting thing for crit, and then white mages have the Secret of the Lily or whatever it is that makes their Asylum and Assize cool down a little bit faster when they crit Cure or Cure 2. So no longer is crit really synergizing with Astrologian, other than, you know, bigger heals and bigger DPS, just like any other job. But yeah, I do like this change a little bit better. I think it's a lot more consistent. So now that we had these changes, what do I think? White Mage definitely better, all around better. Scholar definitely all around better. Astrologian, we lost a little bit from the balance, but we did gain a little bit more with the spear getting changed to something a lot more useful. And we got hyper light speed trait change, which is a lot more consistent in my opinion. So I think Astrologian is still kind of in the same place. I think Astrologian is still probably the best healer of the three. And by that I mean like all around healing, because White Mage is technically the best healer. But yeah, I think Astrologian still is still the master between healing, diversity, and support, I guess, is what I'm trying to say. You know, because as an Astrologian, you can easily fit in with a Scholar or a White Mage. You can easily choose if you want to do regens or shielding. You still have extremely powerful healing because of the built-in healing potency of your sex, and you have a lot of great utility in all of your cards. The Spire, the Spire is still not that useful because TP issues aren't really a problem. The Ewer, again, not as useful. I mean, it's kind of useful for healers sometimes, and other than that, the other 4 cards are still pretty powerful in their own ways. So I think Astrologian is definitely closer to feeling that tactician role that I was kind of talking about in my Astrologian thoughts video, and I definitely like the fact that between the balance, the spear, and the arrow, I do feel like I don't have to shy away from having to always shoot for the balance. I think while they're not exactly equal, they're definitely comparable to each other to a point where I don't feel like I have to throw away a spear or throw away an arrow to try and get a balance. Again, that's just me. Technically you should be able to get through a fight regardless if you draw a gazillion balances or none, right? So if you draw no balances, your party should be able to clear the fight just as fine as if you're able to throw out 4 or 5 balances throughout the fight. So yeah, I really like Astrologian. I definitely think it's still the best healer. After Astrologian, I just still think it's White Mage, and I still prefer White Mage to actually play. I think White Mage is still my favorite of the 3 healers. It's still got extremely good healing capabilities. It's still got pretty decent DPS capabilities. It's definitely a lot more engaging in terms of DPS than Astrologian, although we definitely have a very huge lack in support. Basically, there's really no support coming from White Mage other than big heals and big damage. Big personal damage, I should say. Very little damage mitigation. All we have in terms of damage mitigation is Divine Venison. Other than that, it's just really big heals and a big variety of heals and ways to heal, which I think is fine for White Mage. I think White Mages should have that feel as a healer, and I think Planetary Indulgence definitely got changed for the better, and Secret Lily, getting those lilies more consistently definitely helps, and now we get to use our abilities even more often, because we're getting more lilies, so we're getting to use the cooldown reductions even more. So definitely some good changes for White Mages. As for Scholar, a lot more changes than I was expecting, but still not as many changes as I would have liked. I would have liked to seen more of their basic healing toolkit, mainly focused around Embrace and Physic, getting a little bit stronger somehow. But again, none of that seemed to have been touched upon at all. They instead chose to focus more on Aether Flow, basically, in these changes. They definitely wanted to focus more on Aether Flow and their Aether Flow abilities, which, whatever. Endom and XCOG getting more powerful, definitely nice. Emergency Tactics getting that 10 seconds off is certainly nice, but still have a lot of MP problems with Adloquium and Sucker, and yeah, Scholar definitely got a little bit better, and I'll have to play it more to see if I like it a little bit better. I'm pretty sure I will like it a little bit better, but I still think that I'm probably not going to play Scholar as often as I play White Mage and Astrologian, but that's just me. So anyways, that was the video. How long was this video? About half an hour, so definitely shorter than the other videos, thankfully. But yeah, those were my thoughts on the changes for the 3 healers going into patch 4.05. I do suspect that as they're getting more data coming out of Omega Savage and more feedback from the community, that we'll probably see a few more changes to all of the jobs going into 4.1, and that's really probably where they're going to start making some of the more bigger changes, if they need to make any, because I don't know, I still think that just kind of skimming over these, there are a lot of buffs to a lot of some of the other jobs. Dragoon got some buffs, Machinist definitely got some buffs, a lot of buffs from Machinist, at least I think they did anyway. There's a lot of like reduced heat gauge increase, which I don't know, I feel like they kind of needed to touch more on the overheating mechanic itself rather than reducing the amount of heat gauge you got, but whatever. But I feel like 4.1 is definitely, we're going to see some more job changes. I think White Mage is definitely in a good place. I also think Astrologian is definitely in a good place, but I wouldn't be surprised to see Astrologian get changed somehow. Not necessarily nerfed, but changed. I don't think they need to buff White Mage or Astrologian anymore, and if there are any changes to those two, I think it'll probably be in the form of a change or a nerf. As for Scholar, I think there's still room for it to improve a little bit more to kind of make it more in line with the other 2 healers, because right now Scholar, it has some utility in terms of party white damage. It has Chain Stratagem, it has Fey Wind, which is basically a weaker version of Expended Arrow. So, Scholar does have some stuff going for it, but its healing toolkit, especially compared to the other 2 healers, is just, it's so less inconsistent and so less satisfying. So, we'll see what happens. Maybe, I had someone on my Scholar video comment about how they actually really like the Scholar changes back at the start of Stormblood, so I don't know, maybe since I don't play a Scholar, never played Scholar as much as the other 2 healers, that that's just kind of clouding my own judgment on it. I don't know, but those were my thoughts on the changes to the 3 healers. Let me know if you liked the changes. I definitely think that they were all steps in the right direction. The balance or getting nerfed was a little disappointing, but totally fair and totally understandable. I think as we were moving further and further away from all of the instantaneous, damage buffs, less damage buffs for all the jobs, can't cross-class Raging Strikes, can't cross-class Blood for Blood or Eternal Release anymore. We're losing all those on all the jobs. The fact that Astrologian is basically handing out, free balances, free Raging Strikes to everybody, it was a fair change for it to get nerfed, and in exchange we got one of the more useless cards getting a little bit more useful. So I think that was a fair change, and I like the change because, again, I wanted Astrologian to sort of fill that kind of what did I draw, how can I use it, that sort of tactician feel to it, and I think this definitely moves Astrologian more towards that feel, even though it's still quite not there yet. I think just the balance just still going to overshadow all the other cards for a lot of Astrologians. But for me personally, I think it definitely was a nice change, in my opinion. So, yeah, I'm going to end the video now before I ramble on even longer. So, hopefully you guys are enjoying patch 4.05. If one of your mains was one of the jobs that ended up getting buffed, then good for you. I know Warriors are definitely going to be happy with the stance dancing changes, because I know I was. That's definitely one of the reasons why I was avoiding leveling Warrior until they decided to change that. So thankfully they did. So yeah, hopefully you guys are enjoying patch 4.05. If you're into raiding and doing Savage, then hopefully you enjoy that. That's not really something that I'm going to be touching anytime soon, but well, maybe sometime I'll just join a party finder group or something, because I don't know, I don't have time to join a raid group. So it is what it is, but I'm definitely going to enjoy all of these new job changes as I level up my other jobs on my character. So yeah, enjoy patch 4.05 and enjoy those buffs if you got buffs, and if you got some nerfs, then just know that it's for the greater good, I guess. Rip Holy Spirit and Gust Slash and the balance. those are really the only 3 nerfs I think in the entire patch. So they weren't that bad. So whatever. Anyways, thank you all for watching. Be sure to let me know your thoughts on the 3 healer changes, and I guess any of the job changes really, if you have anything to comment on those, because none of those jobs were my mains, so I'm curious to see what people are thinking of those changes. So yeah, thank you all for watching, and see you guys in the next video, whatever that will be. So till then, sayonara, bye bye.